this slide is all about me, right? I was torn on Sunday. I was looking at these slides and I said, do I give them a perspective of who I am? Or it seems a little too self-promotional. What I'm trying to do here, just real quickly, to give you a sense of where I'm coming from, okay? And instead of listing jobs that I have, I just want to say that I am not, there are experts better than me on this issue. I tip my hat to them. However, I've seen this Hasbara thing from probably a uniquely large number of perspectives. Just a few. One is avoiding the anti-Israeli demonstrations at UC Berkeley, 1982, Sproul Hall. I did not have the Beit Seam of this man who went up against him at Columbia University. Instead, I walked the other way. And maybe part of my motivation is guilt about doing that, in a sense that maybe I should have been more confrontational at that time of 18, but I had other things in my mind, like a lot of freshmen at major universities do. Hint, hint. Circulating pro-Israel resolutions on the Hill. I've seen this from the perspective of the U.S. government. Worked for Congressman Mel Levine for a year and a half. Fundraising at the World Jewish Congress for Edgar Bronfman, Seagram's fame. I was director of development at a very young age after going to the graduate school at Columbia studying Middle East. This is my biggest claim to fame. Should be written on my tombstone. Asher, takshir. Installing cable TV at the Israeli mission in the United Nations on 802nd Avenue at the consulate during the first Gulf War, 1990-91. Guess what? We didn't have cable TV. We were the only mission that didn't have cable TV. We had no idea what was happening in the war, etc., etc. Finally, we found a rich donor who gave us money to have Cablevision, or whoever the company was, to come in and install it. So I am most proud of that. I did it with the current ambassador of Israel to Australia, Yuval Rotem, who's a wonderful guy, also a fellow agent of change, but works within the system and does it at a very high level. I had a great time making Aliyah. I made Aliyah at the right time. A lot of my career has just been lucky to be at the right place at the right time. I made Aliyah during the mid-90s, worked at the time at the largest advertising and PR shop called Chevrat Pirsum Gitam, BBDO. BBDO bought it, etc. One of the things we did was the year of peace tourism. Spectacular time. Next slide. Okay, just a few other things. I worked at the IDF Spokesman's Unit, an example of stuff I did there. Went back to the States, worked at the biggest PR firm at the time, Burson Marsteller. We created a campaign for the government of Israel called Invest in Israeli Ingenuity. Now, it was a michraz. Everyone knows that's a government tender. So I'm sitting with people from Misrad Otzar, from the Finance Ministry, from the Ministry of Industry and Trade, and I start talking about ingenuity. Now, I assure you, and I was told later this was true, half of the judges of the tender didn't even know what the word ingenuity meant. But nevertheless, we were lucky enough to get the bid. An example of how a country can be branded. Okay, that's another cottage industry about national branding. I'll talk about that if you want. This was something I did when I had my own PR firm, NYPR. We did an Israeli security conference right after 9/11. Hundreds, thousands attended. It was big. This is a project I did a year and a half ago called the Israel Video Block. Okay, so successful the government, in its infinite wisdom, shut it down within weeks. 13 years of government Israel training, communications training. So I worked with a mentor of mine. Yes?
Sorry for interrupting you. I have a question.
Please.
When you talk about Hasbara, do you mainly work with Israel and America? And is there a different way the Hasbara is handled towards Europe or certain countries in Europe?
Great point. I am going to talk about that. My focus today is not on communicating what Israel is about to Israelis. It is very much with a focus towards abroad. It's somewhat American-centric, but I'm going to talk specifically about the challenges with Europe and with other countries.
Because America is a lot more pro-Israel than
exactly. I'm going to talk about that distinction in a moment, but very good point. So in terms of working with communications training, I was the guy who would walk in before an ambassador would get on TV and review the key messages and review push-button responses if we're asked things that we don't want to be asked. So I've seen a lot of this over the years, and part of my motivation is perhaps to do things differently. Part of my motivation also comes from deep-seated frustration. I live in, at the moment I'm moving to Boston in 2 weeks, but we live in the Berkshires. It's a remote part of Massachusetts, sort of like being in Israel living in Rosh Pina, which has some great advantages, but has some disadvantages too. It's a little bit removed. And watching the last war there through the internet, television, was sort of brought some of this stuff up. Okay.